beloveds, and welcome to Vida Spiritual Connection. My name is Sunshine Daye, and it is a joy to greet you today. Today, we're going to be talking about embracing spiritual activism, and it's actually through revealing some of our traumas, sometimes religious traumas and triggers, but also it's by nurturing some spiritual practices. And we're going to jump into that right away. So thank you, beloved friends, for joining us as we explore this path. And the path that I'm talking about is the path that unites spiritual practices and taking action. Now, I know that many of us watch the news, and we actually pray, and we pray, and we pray. We pray for the good. We pray for health and healing. We pray for all these things to happen. And yet, though prayer is very, very possible, I'm talking about moving into that next step where our spiritual practices like prayer and meditation and our spiritual practices of knowing the oneness of all life is actually merged with taking action. Merged with taking action. And we'll talk a little bit about what that action looks like. So as we delve into the realm of spiritual activism, for me, spiritual activism is a call. And when I think about a call, I think about like my call to ministry. I think about my call to get sober. I think about my call to be a beneficial presence on the planet. And that call is not someone giving me a phone call and saying, hey, I need you to do this. But there is something within me that wells up. And it comes from a vision. It comes from a vision of seeing a world where people are living their best life, where people are loving one another, where people are joining together in harmony and fellowship to solve some of the human conditions that continue to deteriorate life instead of lifting life up. And when I think about spiritual activism, spiritual and sacred activism actually come from within, where because I have this vision and because I see this world that works for everyone, that there is something within me that moves me, not only in my prayer work and in my meditation work and in my work of healing any of the triggers and traumas, but it is actually to, not to proselytize, but to actually participate in awakening humanity to its spiritual magnificence. It is this call that moves me, that pulls me to want to remind people that right where they are, that life is, that they are each the unique, unrepeatable, magnificent, powerful way that spirit, that life shows up in human form. So for the sake of our talk today, we're going to use and define sacred activism as this. Sacred activism is the fusion of the divine essence, that spirit that connects us all with the passionate pursuit of life-affirming change. It's the embodiment and the recognition of the one life in all, as all, while committing courageously to awaken humanity to its spiritual magnificence in all areas, including addressing and correcting injustice to justice, inequality to equality and oneness. Through sacred activism, we infuse our prayers with action, reverence, compassion, and an unwavering belief in the power of spirit as collective action. And in our science of mind philosophy, we say, treat and move your feet. Wow, that's a mouthful, isn't it? Right? And in that mouthful, as we begin to take a look at how we're moved to do that, I know that, I recently got involved in playing pickleball, and many of you have heard me talk about this. And of course, like I'm playing pickleball. I love it. I'm hooked in this activity that feeds my mind, my body. It keeps me not only entertained and healthy, but it gets my mind going because I want to figure out where to hit the ball and what to do next. And I'm so excited by it that easily and effortlessly I tell so many people about it and how it has changed my life. And in this sharing, of course, I don't know all the plays and I don't play like a pro. And yet my calling, my joyful sharing my pickleball experiences with others pique people's curiosity, and some people play and some people don't play. And nevertheless, it's almost like I am awakening humanity to pickleball. And it's the same for me when it comes to spiritual practices and awakening humanity to its spiritual magnificence. That is that joy of reminding people that right where you are, beloveds, that you are the unique, unrepeatable, magnificent, powerful way Spirit shows up in human form, that you are life itself, and that right where you are, the power and the presence and the love and the abundance and the peace and the prosperity of Spirit of all of life is concentrated right where you are, that you need not look any further. You don't need to look outside of yourself for this. It is already there. But what I know is that as we take a look at this word sacred and it means things that are revered, things that are holy, that is beyond the physical realm. It is a source that is greater than we are, and yet it is our very, very life, that sacredness. And then activism, which is the pursuit of change, and it's driven by passion and commitment to equality and justice and positive, transformative power. Activism is that source that propels humanity to wake up and recognize that how it's been living is not necessarily what's going to sustain us in our future. It is activism for me as I think about it, and I think about all the ways that I've been active, is seeing people living with illness as still the unique, unrepeatable way that life shows up. That just because someone is living with a mental illness, or someone is living with a physical illness or a dis-ease, right? That right where they are, Spirit is. And that we get to wake up, and instead of marginalizing these communities of people who are unhoused and unhomed, people who are discouraged and depressed and in despair, or people who are addicted to substances or gambling or all kinds of things, that right where they are, Spirit is. And when we begin to look at these marginalized communities and these people who don't know that they are the unique, unrepeatable way that life shows up, I want to shout it from the mountaintops. I want to tell everybody about it. And yet, what I get to recognize is that because I don't know everything about it, just like I don't know everything about pickleball, and I want to tell people about it, in my excitement, it's important to recognize that I too get to do some healing, and that I get to do some revealing of sometimes some of the triggers, that I carry, and you may be carrying as well. Like, there are so many religious triggers and wounds that people carry around, things that evoke pain and fear and resentment. And, I don't want to sound like a Jesus freak, or I don't want to do this or do that because I don't want to be seen in this way or that way. And simply, when we begin to carry those triggers of how we want to engage in sacred activism, or we don't want to necessarily go from door to door to tell people about this, even though, wow, what an awakening, to awaken, to have your eyes open, your ears open, to be able to recognize that your life is sacred and that every life is sacred. Like, wow, that is what I want to tell everybody. That's why we do what we do. That's why we're global and worldwide, is to carry this message that right where you are, spirit is, and that nothing, absolutely nothing can separate you from life itself, because you are life. You are the unique, unrepeatable, magnificent, powerful way that spirit shows up in human form. And to the degree in which we recognize that that is a truth of who we are, we can't live from that place of power, from that place of peace, from that place of abundance, from that place of love and generosity and fulfillment. And so it's important to recognize how these triggers, these wounds, whether it comes from religion, whether it comes from our family, whether it comes from our society, how healing these triggers and having them revealed for us is actually a plus. Because if I don't know that it's living within me, then I don't know to heal it or to reveal it for the lie in which it is. So we get to remember that it's not the teaching that maybe has hurt us as much as sometimes it's the individuals who misinterpret the Bible or who misinterpret sacred scriptures or who try to coerce us to think and believe in a particular way so that we're not thinking on our own. And this philosophy is not about teaching you what to think as much as it is teaching you how to think, so that you are asking those critical questions and you are taking action based on the impress of that power and that presence that lives in, through, and as you. And so, when we begin to look at cultivating spiritual practices and we turn our attention to nurturing the spiritual practices that we have in our lives, and if we don't have spiritual practices in our lives, how we begin to fuel our sacred activism is by having in place some spiritual practices that help to remind us of the truth of who we are. And so when we talk about meditation and reflection, when we set aside daily time to simply be in the silence and allow that indwelling power and presence to speak to us in a language in which we understand, and by practice, I mean, because we do it on a regular basis and on a daily basis, we begin to allow spirit to heal us. We begin to listen to the words, to that guidance of our internal spirit, of that internal life and that power and that presence. I know that, gratitude and compassion is a spiritual practice. And when I talk about gratitude, I have a gratitude text list that continues to go. You send me your gratitude and I send you my gratitude. And imagine for a moment if I didn't have today what I wasn't grateful for yesterday. And that attitude of gratitude, because what I know is what I appreciate, and nurturing that spiritual practice of gratitude and allowing my compassion to flow outwards, that gratitude and compassion to flow outwards, embracing all beings, being grateful, even in the times when I think that I am angry and mad with someone. It is an opportunity for the relationship to deepen. That's what it really is, an opportunity for the relationship to deepen. And so though I think, I'm getting such a hard time from this person, when I allow my compassion to flow outward and I begin to embrace all beings just as they are, knowing that we are interconnected, I begin to build a loving foundation for my activism, and I get to meet people right where they are. So it's important to begin there. Now, there are other, of course, spiritual practices that we can engage in, right? Like mindful action, community engagement, approaching every action mindfully. And by mindfully, I'm not necessarily meaning with our brain, but recognizing whether it's signing a petition, whether it is attending a vigil that is for something, whether it's supporting a cause, that when I infuse that with my sacred actions, when I recognize that it is sacred, that what is happening here is that change is happening and I'm participating in awakening humanity to its spiritual magnificence, like that's mindful action. And that community engagement with love-minded individuals where collectively our energies magnify love, magnify peace, magnify power and greatness, magnify human connection, where it is all about our experiences and our insights, and we turn challenges into nurturing and supportive experiences. This, beloved, is for me, is sacred activism. And in that sacred activism, one of our spiritual practices is self-care. So it's always important to come back and reflect, because, sacred activism is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And we must prioritize self-care. Otherwise, we burn out. And that's why it's so important to be in practice and to recognize that those religious triggers, oh no, you got to give until it hurts, that is not sacred activism. And that those triggers, oh, what do you mean give until it hurts? Why? No. It's really about being a beneficial presence, engaging in self-care. So for today, I think, this has been a bite-sized piece into really looking at what sacred activism is, that we get to pray, but we also get to take action. We get to take that inspired action. Maybe it's writing a letter. Maybe it's sending a care package. I mean, with everything that's happening in our world today, as we are praying for people all over the world in places where there's wars and fires, and places where there's earthquakes and tsunamis, and places where there's hunger and famine, and places where religious people are being traumatized, and places where people of color are being hurt, in places where queer people are being hurt. This is an opportunity to recognize the divine humanity that is all of humanity. And as we engage in prayer, recognizing and calling forth a world that works for everyone, we must participate in our own revealing, in our own healing, in our own sacred work, and in our prayer work. And then from that prayer work, move into that sacred activism by using our words, by using our letters and our emails, by using our voices, by standing for what we believe in, which is love. And as long as we stand for love, wow, we can make a huge difference in awakening humanity to its spiritual magnificence. And so by integrating the sacred and the active, you become a vessel for transformation. You become a channel of love and of healing. You become that world of difference for someone who is living with hunger or abuse or anything that is unlike the fullness of spirit. So as you heal your triggers, as I heal my triggers, as you nurture your spiritual practices, as I nurture my spiritual practices, together, individually and collectively, we step into this path of sacred activism where we treat, meaning we use our spiritual mind treatment, and we move our feet. In the words of Mahatma Gandhi, you must be the change that you wish to see in the world. So may your actions be guided by the sacred. And remember as I usually say, I see the sacred, I hear the sacred, I speak the sacred. All life is sacred. Enjoy your healing journey and enjoy your path with me as sacred activists. Until the next time, know that you are loved. If you have any questions whatsoever, drop us an email or give us a call or send us a text message. Contact us so that we can continue on this spiritual learning together. Bye for now. Thanks for tuning in to Vida Spiritual Connection. Use the links in the description for prayer requests, to donate to Vida Spiritual Learning Center, and to join our mailing list. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And you can visit us at vidaslc.org for more information.